You know, we've been talking about what we need to do. We need to stand up individually, locally, as our churches. The body of the pro-life movement has many pieces, just like the body of Christ has many parts. And an essential part of the pro-life movement is the national movement, is those who work on a national level to help us, to pass laws, to lobby, to influence government. And we have a representative from Americans United for Life here today. Chairmaine Yoest is the president of Americans United for Life. And I feel like I'm a veteran of the pro-life movement. AUL has been involved in every pro-life case before the Supreme Court since Roe versus Wade. Okay, these are people we need. And these are people who know some stuff, and these are people we need to listen to and learn from. So please join me in welcoming Chairmaine Yoest.
Oh yeah, let's go. I see you, San Francisco. I see you standing up for religious freedom on a beautiful sunny Saturday. You could be somewhere else, and you're here. And I'm so proud to be with you. Now, Mary Beth talked about Twitter, and we talked about the numbers of people here. Let's multiply ourselves, because that's what technology is for. I'm going to take your picture. You guys get those signs up. Let's get the signs up. Let me hear from San Francisco. Oh, yeah. I want to see you guys using that technology, taking those pictures. We can multiply our presence and our numbers today by thousands by getting those pictures out there, getting them up on the web, and telling people that you are here today standing for religious freedom. And I'm so proud to be here with you. Let me start by telling you the story about a friend of mine, two friends of mine, Luke and Joan Vanderbleek. They used to own 3 pharmacies in the state of Illinois. And one morning they woke up and they discovered that the governor of Illinois had passed a law. Governor Blagojevich, you may have heard he got into a little bit of trouble along the way, not surprisingly, but this is the backstory. He passed a law that said that if you were a pharmacy owner in Illinois, that you had to dispense the morning after pill, the so-called morning after pill, that we all know here is a life-ending drug. So what do you think Luke and Joan did? They stood up for their rights of conscience in the law, and it took them 7 years. 7 years of fighting in the court. They ended up losing and having to close one of their pharmacies because of the expense of this, but they stood up for their religious freedom, and in September they won their case. And the judge said, in America, you have the right to your conscience. You have the right to stand up for what you believe in America. So that was in September, and I wanted to start there because we won on that one. We won on that one. Americans United for Life has been friends of Luke and Joan, and we've been a part of that case. So we were excited because we won on that, and it's important to keep our eyes on that at the same time that we're here today, because there is a monster threat to our religious freedom coming down the pike in Obamacare. Today, it is hard to believe that in America this kind of threat is in front of us. Freedom of conscience is a fundamental right that has been revered since the founding of our nation. This is the freedom that has drawn refugees to our shore since the very beginning. This is what defines who we are as Americans. It's what makes us different from countries all around the world. Freedom of conscience is what makes us thrive as the United States of America. Like Abby said, this isn't about one particular group's freedom. It's about everyone's freedom, regardless of what you believe. The First Amendment, this freedom is deeply embedded in our law. Americans United for Life is a legal organization. Our attorneys are constitutional experts, but you don't have to be a constitutional expert to read the plain words of the First Amendment, which promises Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. That's our Constitution. The root of that promise is the guarantee. It's the guarantee to each and every one of us. The government cannot force a person to commit an act in violation of his or her conscience. Thomas Jefferson himself said no provision in our Constitution ought to be dearer. Nothing dearer to man than that which protects the right of conscience against the enterprises of civil authority. That means Obamacare. This right, it's so treasured by each and every one of us, and it is under attack. It's an essential element of our national character, so much so that the flourishing of diversity and community in America, it is hard for us to even imagine that a day might come where we could no longer exercise that right. That's why I started with the story of Luke and Joan. I think the reason that Americans are not just completely storming the streets over Obamacare and this infringement of our rights is because we find it so hard to believe that it's true. That's why I want you to be using your phones, using your computers, getting the word out there about standing up for religious freedom, because people don't believe it, but believe it, it is true. It is here today. Jefferson wrote, one last quote for you. I love the founders. I graduated from the University of Virginia, Thomas Jefferson's university, and so I like to go back to what they said back at the very beginning, because that's what we've been guaranteed for hundreds of years, and we are not going to stand for them now coming and taking back that social contract that they made with us. Jefferson wrote, the rights of conscience, we never submitted to rulers. We never submitted. We could not submit. We are answerable for them to God. We could not submit then. We cannot submit now. We will not submit. Thank you for being here today.